Ready, fight! A quick gaming phone showdown. You bet! Gaming phones exist in a very specific tech conversation. Gaming products in general, we expect a focus on higher performance, and where there might be compromises for lower costs, we should not be sacrificing CPU and GPU horsepower. Two killer options launched so far this year. The Poco F4 GT and the RedMagic 7 Pro bring high-end components, fast refresh rate screens, loud speakers, and gaming-specific hardware to the table. I have in hand two phones with gaming triggers and 256 gigabytes of storage, so prices will fluctuate based on region and storage configurations, distribution, and exchange rates, but roughly about $100 might separate these two, with the RedMagic being the more expensive. A $100 price difference is enough where we should be able to assume the RedMagic will be a generally better gaming device, but we want to see how that price difference manifests in features and performance. And starting off with design, both are pretty aggressively styled and have some subtle, small RGB color light accents. I wouldn't say one is a clear winner for my personal preference. I think I like the centered and more symmetrical look of the RedMagic, but both of these do a decent job of avoiding that overly Mountain Dew-fueled Transformers aesthetic. For the build though, we split a vote on construction and durability. The RedMagic has a much more exotic solution for cooling, which we'll talk about in a bit, but has touch-sensitive areas for shoulder triggers. The Poco isn't vented for airflow, but the switches still pop up, compromising the water resistance of the device. But I'll give a subtle edge to the Poco for water resistance and durability, but neither of these are rated for getting wet or getting dusty. All right, and comparing the displays, these are very similarly matched 1080p OLEDs, both operating at 120 Hertz. Part of the reason a RedMagic might cost a bit more has a really fancy under-display selfie camera. There's no hole punch or notch to contend with for most games and movies. The Poco isn't sitting still though. The F4 GT has the brighter panel between these two, and I'm honestly torn what might be a better draw for gamers. I genuinely dislike any kind of notch or punch hole on a screen, especially if it interrupts controls in a game, but a little extra brightness is always appreciated. So for now, even though this has the fancier, newer technology, I think I'm gonna call this a draw. But one small lifestyle win for the Poco, the power button fingerprint sensor, definitely faster, more accurate, and more consistent than the RedMagic's optical in-display scanner. Now, when we talk about gaming, we obviously fixate on graphics and performance and frame rate, but audio, how do we treat our ears? Starting with speakers, the RedMagic can get a little bit louder. Honestly, both of these are too loud for me when I'm playing at arm's length. And that's really cool. Phones that can just about keep up with inexpensive Bluetooth speakers for filling a small bedroom. The headphone situation is a little easier win for the RedMagic because it has a built-in headphone jack. The Poco does have a built-in headphone DAC, and both phones put out solid performance for cabled audio, but it's really nice not having to deal with the dongle and leaving your USB port free for power. And another lifestyle comparison, I don't think many folks are turning to gaming phones and expecting the toppest tier camera performance. As a personal general opinion, I think Poco is delivering nicer output from the cameras. The main sensor is a little larger, the post-processing is pretty close to other Xiaomi sub-brand phones. I think it's fair to say, even on a gaming phone, someone might want to turn to the cameras. I think your experience is gonna be a little nicer on the Poco. And between these two and the different solutions that they use to get to kind of the same experience, I have to give out a tie for general gaming hardware. Now, both have these great shoulder triggers. The Poco can be made a little more useful by assigning app shortcuts to the magnetic hardware triggers, but I'm honestly not sure how useful that might be unless someone just leaves the triggers exposed all the time. With those triggers, the Poco has a great gaming shortcut when you flip both triggers, but the RedMagic duplicates that with a dedicated side switch to enable its gaming mode. I think this is a tie for enabling better controls on games without needing to add a controller. Both of these phones perform very, very well. I think it's going to come down to a personal preference if you like the actual tactile clicky switches or if you like the touch-sensitive strips that function like triggers. All right, but a critical win for the RedMagic though, battery and power tech. Poco includes the faster charger than what we get in the United States with RedMagic, 120 watts versus 65. Though the RedMagic in China gets 135 watt charger. I didn't get to test that variant. The RedMagic has a slightly larger battery, but that's not enough to give it a win, so why give RedMagic the nod? Much better power management. Now, both have power and performance options in your battery settings. You can go to Ultra and Beast mode and change the refresh rate. But the RedMagic has more configurable options for charge separation. You can completely separate the battery from charging or discharging when the phone is plugged in. So if you know you're gonna be gaming pretty hard, you're not putting extra charge cycles on the battery or running the battery harder gaming while plugged in. And this is small, but you can also set the internal fan to run when fast charging, just as an additional way to help longer term battery health. Help keep the internals running a little cooler. It's a monster feature, which should be on all premium tier or high performance consumer electronics, but so far it's only found on a handful of gaming phones and the Sony Xperia. Ditto video output from the USB-C. The RedMagic doesn't have a great desktop mode, but if you don't use an app drawer, like if you just let all of the apps install to your home screens, plugging in a monitor does give you a full screen view on 16:9 displays. It's clumsy, it's definitely not as useful as the gaming mode on Moto Ready 4, but you can use it if you want your phone to be a mini console connected to another display. And there's just nothing like either of those features on the Poco. There's no charge separation or battery protection that I can find, and I don't know of any Xiaomi devices that have video output from the USB-C. But if we're talking about gaming phones, maybe the most important point to consider is gaming performance. Adding a cooling fan to a phone makes for a pretty easy win. Now, the Poco is a screamer. It stands along the best performing traditional slate phones of the year using the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, but it also performs similarly to a lot of those premium phones for thermals. RedMagic's internal cooling fan is not a gimmick. It allows the 7 Pro to operate at a higher tier for significantly longer periods of time and is able to produce gameplay that portable consoles cannot match. I just got this bad boy in. I've been playing a ton of games. I love the Steam Deck, but this thing cannot play Tesla vs. Lovecraft at over 90 frames per second. The RedMagic 7 Pro can, and it's gonna try to drive any game you play to the absolute maximum screen refresh that you set the phone at. And one last comparison point in terms of manufacturers and support, both phones have each received a major update. But I don't think I'll be too far off predicting more software attention from Poco for the F4 GT than from RedMagic for the 7 Pro. It's just my guess. It would be nice if we saw regular updates for both, so we'll just have to see. But I think I'm gonna be correct in my prediction. So like I said at the top, the RedMagic generally retails for a little more than the Poco depending on region, and we should expect that to mean it's gonna be a better gaming phone. What I think is interesting, the Poco F4 GT is honestly a better phone in the way we usually review and talk about smartphones, the better camera, the brighter screen. But judging a gaming phone on its ability to play games, the performance advantage of active cooling on the RedMagic is basically impossible to beat. The better power management controls for battery health are formidable. I think phones are always more interesting to talk about when they're built with a purpose. And it really doesn't get more niche than gaming phones. But even then, we're seeing a really nice diversity in options and performance at extremely competitive price points. Writing out this script and finally sitting down to shoot this video, really focusing in on the games I like to play, I might need to do a phone versus Steam Deck shootout soon, where a RedMagic or a Poco F4 isn't much more expensive than my higher storage tier Steam Deck. I'm just saying, depending on games and emulators, it could make for a really fun showdown. And also, I'll pin a comment down below. For those of you that are into mobile gaming, what are some of your favorite games to play on a phone? I have a crazy list of Android titles that I enjoy, but something tells me this audience is also pretty hip to emulators. So let's have a chat. We might be able to help some folks out. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, subscribing to the channel. All the support recently has been absolutely fantastic. Those of you who are checking out the links in the description, if you've hit up my website, SomeGadgetGuy.com, or if you've joined the list of names scrolling by on your screen from my Patreon, patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list is basically the coolest collection of tech pals in the universe. So I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch. Not so much on the Facebooks and the Instagrams, but I will catch you all on the next comparison.